All right, folks, welcome back to the W.A.D.E concept presented by The Ring. Tonight, I found out what the hype was about. I didn't even mean to rhyme any of that. With Jarron, Boots, Ennis. Now, listen, if you weren't already all in, you might as well push the chips to the center of the table because Jarron Boots Ennis took off the work boots and put on his dancing shoes to an insane performance and stoppage of Eimantas Stanionis, and he made it look easy. What do I mean to break down? Let's go. So, I'll put my hand up. And I'm doing this a lot, it feels like, but I don't care. I'm going to own up to it when I'm wrong. I thought this matchup, Jarron Boots Ennis and Eimantas Stanionis, was a bit of a fight of the year look-alike type of matchup. Why? Because you had Boots Ennis, who, yes, is an otherworldly talent, can fight out of both stances, can fight forward, can fight backward, defensive ability, head movement, anticipation, all of it is on his side in most or maybe every fight. 33-0. He has the WBA belt at welterweight. He has the IBF belt. Now, tonight took on Eimantas Stanionis, not just for the WBA belt that he held, but the vacant Ring Magazine belt. Now, the matchup itself was interesting because Eimantas Stanionis, a big-time volume puncher, great jab, really going to stick it on you. His motto for this fight was all gas, no brakes, and unfortunately that ran him right into a roadblock, potentially a truck stop, potentially a 18-wheeler running right back at him with Jarron Boots Ennis. And these type of matchups where you think you're going to get a fight of the year contender because Stanionis is a champion, because he's undefeated, because he's a former Olympian, because his style makes for an explosive fight, a volume puncher on that front foot, pressure, and again, a lot of good work off the jab. You think that this is going to cause Boots some problems because of his last fight, and because if you looked at a lot of the pre-fight build, and especially this week, the weight that Jarron Ennis has to cut to get to 147 pounds is a little concerning, and I thought for sure after seeing him a couple days before the weigh-in, and he looked like he was on death's door, that this meant it was going to be win and move up time for Boots. And that means potential fights at 54 with Virgil Ortiz or Tim Tszyu or Fundora. After tonight, I'm not so convinced that he's done with 147 pounds because as the fight started, this was a masterclass from the first second that the timekeeper rang the bell. Stanionis immediately blitzed out to the center of the ring, but you immediately saw a massive difference, and shout out to Sergio Mora, who was on the DAZN broadcast, who mentioned this. You saw a difference in footwork and honestly in comfortability from both fighters. Boots fighting in his backyard in Philly. Eimantas Stanionis, fair play, ton of Lithuanians in Philly, but a long way away from home, we'll say. And while the crowd was, I would say, in favor of both, really just there for a good fight, you just saw a comfortability out of Boots. And he starts the fight in orthodox. Like I said, he fights out of both stances, but he was peppering Stanionis with the jab. And immediately you saw this was not going to be all gas, no brakes. This was going to be a puzzle that Stanionis was not going to be able to figure out. And it started with the feet. You saw a lot of flat-footedness, sometimes just happy feet, not really able to get his feet under him and get set because of the constant movement of Boots. He was in the orthodox stance, pumping out his jab, bah, 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 and then was able to circle and just so smooth when he would do it. Pivot off the lead, he would find his way back to his range. Or he would get that head off center line, right hand down the middle, back to the jab, feint, and then he was out again. It looked like he was on skates, the way he was just floating in and out of range. And Stanionis couldn't really threaten him. Usually you'd see Stanionis come in with the jab and then follow with some volume and heavy volume behind it. And there were moments where Stanionis in this fight landed a big shot, whether it was, after getting flurried on by Boots for 4 or 5 punches, and then he'd come out with a big left hook or a big right hand. Those would be the moments he'd have, but then immediately they'd be swallowed up by the fact that Boots was laying in wake to throw another uppercut, left hook, or a jab, level change, uppercut, jab, right hand, and pivot out and make him miss, slide on him, and get back to the center of the ring. He just had it all working tonight, and it was evident very clearly, very early. Boots didn't waste any time. He won the first round going away, and in the first round, I thought is where he found the sweet spot of what he would eventually get to stop this fight, which was a southpaw stance. I think he's best out of southpaw. I know he loves to switch, and he's dangerous out of both stances, but boy, tonight, if it showed him where he's most dominant, especially for this fight, and styles make fights, but his southpaw stance, he was able to find the jab and then the uppercut as Stanionis, who was already shorter than Boots, comes in with that high guard and bends at the waist to protect his body. Boots was throwing that uppercut straight into the high guard, splitting the guard with it, and he did it over and over, and it was just beautiful to watch. And again, you almost forgot that this was billed as fight of the year contender and champion versus champion and number 1 versus number 2 at 147 because Boots was playing with him. He was playing with him like he would a father to a child. He was walking him over to this side of the ring. Bing, bing, bing. And then let me have this dance with you as I go to the other corner. Bing, bing, bing. And again, and it was just insane to watch the flow state it was in. He was so relaxed. He had complete control of the fight. And I just couldn't believe how he just toyed with Eimantas Stanionis and tagged him time after time. After the second round, Stanionis is bleeding from the mouth, and Boots is just chilling. He's walking him on to shots, and that was the problem with the whole all gas, no brakes mantra from Stanionis. It was great for what Stanionis does well. He brings the pressure, he brings the pace. We get all that. He's a big-time puncher on the end of his shots, but it's not great for a bigger, stronger, more agile, better skilled, and better footwork having fighter in front of you that invites pressure to be able to make you pay. So all gas, no brakes just meant he's walking onto shots left and right like I do at a Friday night at the bar and they're giving out free Fireball. At least I used to. Nowadays, I can't handle my liquor like that. Anyway, people, myself included, that thought that the volume punching of Stanionis was going to be a big difference maker. He not only got out-punched, he got outlanded. Boots threw more shots. He landed more shots while throwing more, meaning he landed more accurately while also increasing his output more than Stanionis, off the front foot, off the back foot. And eventually, it started to break the levee because Boots invested to the body on a guy that hasn't been hit to the body like Boots hit him. And again, Boots was bigger and stronger in this fight. And he was tagging him with hooks around the guard as that high guard came down. And Stanionis, when he would get tagged with 3 or 4, would throw a big looping right hand, and Boots would just kind of watch it as it went by, like Spider-Man when he slowed motion down in front of him and Flash Thompson threw the right hand by him. That's the type of Matrix stuff we were dealing with, and I know we throw that Matrix term around, but this is what it looked like when Neo was dodging bullets, except Boots was dodging punches. And was like, cool. Oh, that was for me? All right, whatever. It was ridiculous. Like, again, a sitting champion being treated like this by Boots Ennis was shocking, to say the least. Not because I don't believe Boots is world level or he's honestly potentially pound for pound level, but because this was supposed to be a fight of the year type of fight, not a make it look easy and dominate at all aspects of boxing type of fight. Boots just took it into his own hands to say, oh, cool, y'all thought that the last performance was me? Watch this. Eventually, we got to the 6th round, and it was becoming one-way traffic. If it wasn't already from round 1, it definitely was in round 6. And at this point, Boots landed a big-time shot that hurt Stanionis. Hit him with like 1, 2, 3, 4 uppercuts with the backhand out of southpaw position that really hurt Stanionis and dropped him to the canvas off the body work. Back to the uppercuts, the 2 big weapons. And again, you're talking about a guy that's never lost. He's in there fighting 15-0 with 9 knockouts in Stanionis. And this was just an eye-opening moment. 20 seconds left in the round. Stanionis survives, and Boots and him exchange a stare as they go back to the corners. And I wonder if that was the stare for Boots to say, I know you're done. You don't have to act like this is close anymore. And for Stanionis to go, I still need to put on a brave face, because the time they broke that stare to the time that we saw them again, Boots was in his corner preparing for the next round, and Stanionis' coaches were saying, we've had enough. The fight ends there in between rounds 6 and 7, and Boots Ennis, if you didn't know, now you know, is not only the unified 147-pound champion, one more belt still remaining. Brian Norman holds the WBO belt, so potentially you have a fight there, although I think Boots scoops that belt up as well and does so in fairly dominant fashion. But regardless of what he wants to do, selfishly, I want the Virgil Ortiz fight. Or, you know, okay, go and be undisputed. That's fine as well. The point is, this fight announced Boots Ennis, if it hadn't already been announced, because everybody knew he was special and everybody knew he was already a solidified champion. Even though he didn't win the IBF, he was elevated to the IBF. This is still a guy that you knew was otherworldly. And now he proved it, not just on a big stage, not just against another champion, but against the best outside of himself in this weight class at the moment. Potentially, you have Devin Haney, you have Ryan. I don't know if Tio's going to come all the way up. We'll see. But you have other big names. Mario Barrios is here as well. You have other big names. But this was a masterclass of a performance, and what a way to announce himself on the world stage. Eddie Hearn, you can tell when someone is great when Eddie Hearn gets the giggles and jumps into the ring and hugs him by the neck after a big-time win. That was huge for him, too, because he put a lot behind Ennis, let's be honest. And He delivered tonight. And as far as what's next, like I said, we could talk about him moving up. We could talk about him getting undisputed. I don't really care. The point is, I'm bought in. I'm all in on Jarron Boots Ennis, and it's because of the boxing IQ, because of the killer instinct, because of the relaxed, composed poise that he showed in the ring, because of the footwork, and because of the understanding that he is great. And on a big stage in front of a lot of people, with a big-time fighter in front of him, he rose to the occasion. That's the Boots I want to see. I don't want to see fighting up and down to his competition level. I want decimation, and I want it to look like Bob Ross painted it. I want art, and I want destruction. Essentially, give me heavy metal music in the form of boxing, and that's what Boots Ennis did tonight. Woo! I feel like I've just gone a couple rounds myself. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. What's next for Boots? What's next for the welterweight division? Does he go undisputed? Does he move to 154? I don't have those answers, but stay tuned in to the ring because these next coming weeks, there's great fights for you guys. April 26th, Chris Eubank Jr., Connor Benn, and also a personal favorite, Vidal Riley, Chef Clark. We may have it all on the channel this week. Stay tuned. May 2nd, the big three. Ryan, Tio, Devin, all in action. May 3rd, Canelo Alvarez, William Skull. Don't miss all those. Once again, presented by The Ring. Thank you guys for watching. What happens next in the wild world of boxing? I don't have those answers, but I guess we'll find out.